inventory. Does anybody have any AA announcements or non-AA? We'll do them both at once. Any announcements at all? No. All right, well, tonight we're presenting step 10, continue to take personal inventory when we were wrong, properly admitted it. Our presenter is Vince with his 5 years, one of my good friends in my fellowship.
Yeah. Wait, not too hard. You don't want to mess up the mic. Hell yeah. Hi, guys. Ooh, is that good?
Yeah, it's picking up.
All right. Hi, guys. I'm Vince, and I'm an alcoholic. Like Jimmy said, yeah, we're discussing step 10 tonight, which is continuing to take personal inventory, and when we're wrong, promptly admitted it. So I was listening to Joe and Charlie before this meeting, and they just like had an interesting exchange. Basically, they were saying like our purpose right now is to continue to change, right? If I want to distill that step into like something like a little bite, I just need to continue to change. If step 10 is the culmination of doing 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 repeatedly every day, he said, I challenge a person to do steps 4 through 9 every day and be the same person. Like you can't be the same person, right? If I'm promptly admitting it, you know, in the act, like, right? If God gives me that, revelation that I've done something wrong, right? Because I'm doing stuff wrong all the time and I don't even recognize it. But if I have the gift to be able to discern when I've done something wrong, and then I take that action to admit it, right? Because those are two separate things. Like a lot of times I know I'm doing wrong, but I don't want to admit it. But once I take that action to admit it, they said, try that repeatedly and be the same person. And they said, there's no way that you can be the same person, you know. Step 10 talks a lot about humility, right? Not directly, but if we rewind back to step 7 in the 12 and 12, it said humility is the foundation principle of all of AA's 12 steps, right? The humility in step 10 is being able to go to that person and saying like, hey, this is how I've done you wrong. How can I make it right? Right? I don't want to be wrong. I do feel like I'm right a lot of the time in my life, especially now that I've turned my will and my life over. Even before I turned my will and my life over, I felt like I was right in a lot of my actions, but it is humbling, right? And I am thankful for that. I do want to read this little passage from the big book, and I'm gonna just have you help me out for a second, okay? I'm gonna just ask some questions, and you just tell me what you think, all right? All right. So this thought brings us to step 10, which suggests we continue to take personal inventory and continue to set right any new mistakes as we go along. We vigorously commence this way of living as we cleaned up the past. What do you think vigorously means?
Earnestly.
Earnestly?
Yeah.
Okay.
Without reservation.
Without reservation. Okay. I'm vigorously. Whenever I think of the word vigorously, I think of somebody who's drowning, right? And they don't want to drown, so they are vigorously trying to swim, right? It says, we have vigorously commenced this way of living as we cleaned up the past. We have entered the world of the Spirit. Our next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. This is not an overnight matter, right? It should continue for our lifetime. Continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. Where did we do that at? What step did we do that? 4. Continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. That's 4. When these things crop up, we ask God at once to remove them. What step is that? 6 and 7. When these things crop up, we ask God at once to remove them. We discuss them with someone immediately. Okay, and make amends quickly if we have done harm anyone. So we discuss them with someone immediately. That's what we did in step 5, right? And make amends quickly if we have done harm. That's 8 and 9. Then we resolutely turn our thoughts to someone we can help. Love and tolerance of others is our code. I love that line, right? After we prepare this inventory and admit that we've done wrong, we resolutely turn our thoughts to someone we can help. How often How often when I know that I've done something wrong, do I ruminate in it? Like, oh my God, I'm really messed up. I'm so, so sorry. Adam, can you believe what I did today? Da 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 da. You know, but really, the big book it talks about it tells me not to dwell in that. Right? How am I helping somebody if I'm dwelling in that? If I'm dwelling in the past, right? Everybody makes mistakes. My mistakes are no more significant than anybody else's mistakes. Like let me help somebody through those mistakes, right? Because in step 9 it says no matter how far down the scale we have gone, we'll see how our experience can benefit others. So no matter what I've been through, right, I can help somebody. And one of the greatest ways I get to do that is with step 10 inventory. Let me tell you this little story. This guy we were talking to before the meeting, he just reminded me, he said that he wanted to go back through the steps, and I remember when I was about a year sober, I asked my sponsor, I was like, hey, I'm ready to go back through the steps. This is who I am at a year sober. I'm running myself through steps at this time. I'm telling my sponsor what I think I need to do. And, he stops me like he does sometimes. And he's like, why? And I'm like, I just want some more. He's like, well, you probably just need to go and help somebody. Step 10 talks about preparing an inventory, right? And oftentimes we conflate it a little bit with what step 11 talks about, right? Step 11 talks about prayer meditation. It says on awakening, when we retire at night and thinking about our day, we may face indecision, right? All those things are about step 11. Step 10 is this walking around step, right? I can't make something right immediately if I wait till night, to prepare my inventory, right? We were talking to one of our other friends, and he was saying, sometimes his girlfriend would hold things in, right? And then let it all out at the end of the night, even though something is wrong, and sometimes that's how I can get, right? But I'm sick, right? When I'm holding things in, that's like this resentment, I need to clear that out so I can continue to help others, right? Love and tolerance to others is our code. So if I'm making things right immediately, there's sometimes there's not time for me to grab a pen and paper. Sometimes there's not time for me to wait for my sponsor to call me back. Like there's no harm in admitting if I'm wrong, even if I'm right, even if I know in my heart of hearts, I'm right. If my instincts have collided with somebody else's, right, I may have done harm. And so there's no harm in trying to find a solution, a little middle ground, to set things right, because by me making it right with that other person, I'm trying to make it right in God's world, so how did we get here? How did we get here? I talked about step 10 a little bit, but guys, I had to get sober first, right? Where's step 1 at? I had to get sober. See, the problem, it is me. The problem rests in my mind. The problem is my actions. But I had to recognize, right? I had to come to some understanding of exactly what the problem is. The problem was not me shooting up. The problem was not me doing heroin. The problem was not me smoking crack, right? The problem is just me, okay? So here I am. I'm at step 1. Step 1 says that I admitted I'm powerless and that my life had become unmanageable, and I think a lot about what that unmanageability means. And I say this all the time, like no matter what I have in my life, at that time, like I'm always irritable, restless, and discontented. I felt like drugs and alcohol was gonna make that better. And it's so crazy. Like, how now at step 10, I'm trying to make things right? I'm trying to find this common ground. I'm trying to sweep away the debris of my past, right? I really felt like alcohol could do that for me, could do that for other people. I remember I'm bartending at the time. I'm probably 21, 22 years old. And one of my friends, he called me and he said, I just got into a fight with my boyfriend. My computer's broke. I hate my mom. She's a bitch. What do I need to do? I'm like, you need to just come down to the bar and have a drink. and everything would be okay. Guys, I really believe this, you know, and I think like people still believe things like this, like just put a drink on top of it and everything's gonna be fine. And you know, and I'll tell you a story. He came down and he had a drink, you know, and he kept on talking, and I wasn't trying to hear it. And I said, okay, well, we need to go to a different place. You know, I asked my manager if I could get off early, and we went to this nightclub, and I just remember this night. We had the time. I had the time of my life. It was a late night, probably 3 o'clock in the morning, and we're going to another place. You know, in Las Vegas, there is no last call. You know, just whatever place is still open, that's where I'm going. And so we're in his car and we're leaving, and everybody else is leaving this nightclub, and you know, we're driving down this alley. He goes over a couple speed bumps and he stops the car, you know. And I'm like, what is he doing? Like, my favorite song's on the radio. Like, at the time, it's Super Bass by Nicki Minaj, you know, and I'm just ready to go. Like, I took a Xanax, I had a Four Loko, like, it's go time, dog. And he backs up the car, and he gets out, you know, and I get out. And at this time in my life, guys, I was going to school to be an EMT. I just got certified as an EMT, you know, and he gets out the car, and I get out the car. And he didn't run over two speed bumps, like he ran over two people, you know. And a lot of times when I think about this night, I just think how crazy it is of me to tell him to come out, come to the bar, let's get drunk. It's going to solve all your problems. You know, like I only need to think about this night to remind myself like of that suffering and humiliation that alcoholism causes. You know, like I'm over here looking for a solution to his irritable, restless, and discontented, and I just made something worse. Not only did I make something worse, like oh shit, like a person lost their life that night. One person lost their life. Another person was in the hospital in critical condition for like 6 months. You know, my best friend, he went to prison for 6 years, and I drove home. You know, I drove home, but I still continued to get high. I still continued to drink. You know, like it's just insane to me, like how I didn't think that that was a problem for me, you know, because that could have been me. That should have been me, really. I just think about how many nights I drove home drunk, right? I've gotten a DUI before, how many tickets I've received, like all these consequences that I received, and I still am just amazed at how I didn't see that that my alcohol use was a problem. You know, like, and I think about this, I'm gonna compare it to inventory. When I go through my inventories, you know, now, I've been sober, guys, I've been sober January 28th, 2016. Like Jimmy said, I just celebrated 5 years, you know. Yeah. Come on. But when I go back through those inventories, like, it's so clear to me. Like, when I write something down, like, oh, I can clearly see this, like, outside the situation, like, a little bit a part of the situation. And I felt like if I had the same like willingness to take inventory back then, you know, would have caused like so much destruction. In the big book, it says the alcoholic is like a tornado roaring his way through the lives of all that he meets, you know, and I am that tornado. I was that tornado, you know. At the end of that passage, just, you know, it talks about these people. I imagine them coming out of a cellar in like the middle of Kansas, and you know, there's like this dust ball. Exactly. And I'm like, hey ma, ain't it great the wind stopped blowing? You know, like let's go party, you know, let's go to the nearest bar and get something to drink. And ma's looking at me like, what the fuck? Like, this is some bullshit. We gotta clean this shit up, you know? And yeah, I mean, I guess that brings us to step two. Like, seriously, like, my alcoholism was that tornado, right? And just this one example, right? I see, like, my best friend, he went to prison, somebody passed away, right? Somebody was in the hospital, you know? And it's just me, you know? And yeah, I continued to use for years and years after that, right? I'm 32 now. Like, that was 10 years ago, you know? So, and I still didn't get it. let me just go over this mind and body real quick. We get this idea from Dr. Silkworth, right? Dr. Silkworth says that the problem of the alcoholic rests in his mind rather than his body. If I just stop drinking, what I've done is take care of this body part, right? I don't have to worry about this physical allergy, this phenomenon of craving, right? Dr. Silkworth says alcoholics, they developed an allergy to alcohol, right? And this allergy, once I put a drink in me, right? Once I put a drink in me, it causes this thing called the phenomenon of craving. This phenomenon of craving is what I can't beat, right? So many times I've gone out just to have 1, 2 drinks, spend only a certain amount of money, or be out only a certain amount of time, right? And putting all these rules, I'm trying to control and enjoy my drinking, but I never can, right? And with this phenomenon, I can't beat it. Every time I go on a well-known spree, right? I get this guilt, shame, remorse, and the alcoholic's favorite reprieve is like, I will never do that again. You know, like I'm never gonna shoot heroin and cocaine again. You know, like I'm just gonna shoot heroin just a little bit. You know, right? Like I'm never gonna mix it. You know, I'm never gonna take a Xanax. I don't know why. I don't know why I take Xanax because I don't know if I had a good night or bad night, and I've spent all my money. But I continue to do it, right? I'm sick. I have a disease, you know. I make this firm resolution. I'm never going to do it again. But obviously, without a solution, right? I can't just rely on abstinence. I still have this alcoholic mind. I'm restless, irritable, and discontent. I don't have a solution for this emotional buildup, right? And my mental obsession, it always wins over. So alcoholism is this coupling, right? It doesn't matter how much I drink or what I drink or what my brand is or if I drink or do drugs or whatever. When I say I'm been some alcoholic, I'm telling you that I get this phenomenon of craving no matter what I put in my body, that I have this mental obsession with this physical allergy, right? The glory of step 10, though, if I could fast forward, I know I'm jumping around a little bit. The glory of step 10 is that this obsession can be eliminated. So what does that leave me with, right? If I take care of this body part by never putting anything in my body, and this obsession is eliminated, I'm just left with this emotional buildup, this restless, irritable, and discontent. And this is what I need the 12 steps for, right, guys? So listen, I'm just sober right here. Instead of this phenomenon of craving, instead of going on these well-known sprees, right? Instead of having to wake up every day and hungover saying, I'm never going to do this again, I'm just sober. But I'm sober and restless and irritable and discontented. I'm insane. I'm insane. Thank you. So step 2 says that I could be restored to sanity. Step 2 is some hope. Am I right? Like, okay, there's a way. I get to do something about this, you know? So in this hope of step 2, right, for me, and it's so crazy, guys, just let me go on the side. Like, I really believe, like, for someone to get sober, they had to go to jail. Like, I went to jail. They had to spend 3 months there because I spent 3 months in Boone County Jail. They had to spend 14 months in treatment, you know, because the first 6 months, you ain't doing shit. You know, it's really the last 8 months where you're really doing something. They have to spend a year and a half in sober living, you know, to learn how to live. I don't know why I think like this, but this is just my experience, you know. But you don't have to do any of that, right? But this is what you do have to do, right? You kind of have to participate in your recovery, right? This whole side right here, like I'm participating in this program, right? We see people going to meetings. We see them at meetings regularly. And you know, we think they're doing good, right? They're doing what they should be doing. You know, I'm getting my meeting sheet signed. Like I mean, that's where it started for me. I had to get my meeting sheet signed. You know, I had to do like 8 meetings a week or something, right? I don't know how many. I did a lot of meetings a week. Something, you know. Guys, I only forged like 2 meetings while I was in treatment. Like I went to those fucking meetings. I was a meeting making bitch for real. What you guys told me to do was get a sponsor, right? You guys told me to call them every day. I don't know where that is in the big book. It's not, but you told me to call them every day. And I saved my little quarters and I called Corbin every day. And for some reason, like, he was not annoyed. Like, I would just tell him some random shit that happened in community or something he didn't care about. And it seemed like he listened, like, I guess I was keeping my sponsor sober, right? You guys told me to get a home group. And right now, this is my home group. The glory of my home group, this home group, and it's probably different for everybody. But when I have to present at this home group, like, it's like the reason why I'm opening this book, and it takes me back because when I have sponsees, like, I like to read these little chapters with them, and sometimes I have sponsees that want to do it, sometimes I don't. But when I was in treatment, I read this book a lot. I read this 12 and 12. I read the big book. I read other AA literature, and you don't even have to be literate to really, like, stay sober through this program. You just work the 12 steps, but a lot of this is super interesting to me. So so this home group keeps my head in this book, so I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for you guys, right? And then service work. Guys, seriously, service work, my first couple of years of sobriety, like, that's what it was for me. Like, and I feel like if I wasn't doing service, I would not be standing here right now. So I guess, I mean, I got a coin last night at Generations, and I didn't say anything. I didn't really say anything. I didn't have anything to say. But if there's anything, like, I could tell somebody to help them, like, get through early sobriety, like, it was important for me to get a sponsee to start sponsoring guys before I left Grateful Life Center. And then once I left, it was important for me to go there often. Just in my experience, I went there like every day, and every time somebody wanted to ride to a meeting, like, I said, okay. And I just remembered, like, putting my quarters in the payphone and calling all those numbers in my 3 wins, and a lot of people didn't have time, right? People have jobs and kids and stuff, but it was like a letdown. It's kind of disappointing, and I felt like if somebody, like, spent the quarters to call me, and I wasn't doing anything at night, which I probably wasn't, go pick up that guy, go sponsor that guy. When they ask you to give your lead at PIG for the third time that month, you just say, okay. And just opportunities like that, like, really helped me out. So service work, really, I mean, it did it for me, like, guys, do service, make some coffee, get a home group. I don't know, go to those GSR meetings. You guys been in any GSR meetings? It's the worst meeting you could ever go to. It's not even a meeting. I don't even know what it is. I've been to a couple of them. And yeah, a GSR meeting will keep you sober, Guys, participate. So second, participation is good. Participation, right? All of this, all you guys are going to do right here is support me. Check this out. When I'm in the problem, when I'm just with my junkie friends and my drug dealer is my higher power, my sponsor, my higher power, none of you guys are supporting where I'm at, right? You guys are not supporting my growth. You guys are not helping me grow in effectiveness and understanding, right? Like the fellowship is. So that's why I need this fellowship to help me grow in effectiveness and understanding. What am I understanding? I'm understanding this big book, right? When I get into these meetings, you guys told me to read the big book. Sometimes we'd have little topic meetings, right? And somebody will pull a quote out the big book or read the daily reflections, and it's page 42 out the big book, right? Talk about lack of power or something. Of course, it's like a step one kind of thing. And you guys told me to read the big book, right? In the big book, the first 164 pages, that's how, like, those first 100 recovered from a hopeless state of mind and body, right? We say that at this meeting. Did we say that? Right? The steps we took is how the first 100 recovered from a hopeless state of mind and body, and that's what we recount in those first 164 pages. What's important to me in the big book, before I started going to those meetings, I read those other 300 pages of personal stories and I related to them and I loved them. And those personal stories made me feel okay with saying that I was an alcoholic. A lot of times there's some obstinacy in a newcomer. They don't want to call themselves an alcoholic. You know, maybe they smoked heroin or did cocaine or whatever, smoked crack or whatever. Yeah, I did all those things. I'm an alcoholic just because of my behaviors, right? I already said it doesn't matter like what I did or how often I did it, right? I worked these 12 steps to have this spiritual awakening, right? And the spiritual awakening, let me read the spiritual awakening from Bill's story. Now, this is not a typical spiritual awakening. This is Bill's story, right? It's different for everybody, but let me just give you an example of what it's like. Page 14, it says, these were revolutionary and drastic proposals, but the moment I fully accepted them, the moment I fully accepted the 12 steps, right? The moment I fully accepted them, the effect was electric. There's a sense of victory followed by such a peace and serenity as I had never known. There's utter confidence. I felt lifted up as though the great clean wind of a mountaintop blew through and through. God comes to most men gradually, but his impact on me was sudden and profound. Okay? This spiritual awakening is this psychic change, it creates this psychic change, right? We need this complete psychic change. And in the back of the book, it talks about that psychic change. What page is that, guys? 567. Spiritual experience. Term spiritual experience, spiritual awakening are used many times in this book. Upon careful reading, shows that the personality change sufficient to bring about recovery from alcoholism has manifested itself among us in different forms. So it doesn't have to look like what Bill's looks like. Like my spiritual experience, my spiritual awakening, guys, is gradual and it's still happening. It's happening right before your eyes, guys. I feel like when I go back through my inventories and I think about the things that bugged me, right? The things that I felt pissed off enough to write down, I laugh at them sometimes. And I'm happy that I've grown a little bit, you know, like, damn, like I really just want to run the show all the time. I really did. Sometimes I still do. Sometimes I still do. Sometimes I think I got some good suggestions, but I really don't, you know. So yeah, that's the spiritual awakening, complete psychic change. Guys, how do I have this psychic change? I get to turn my will and my life over to the care of God as I understood him. I don't know how to do that. I did not have any kind of relationship with God when I first came into this program, right? But I was willing to do something different. Step 2 says, do I now believe, or am I even willing to believe that there is a power greater than myself? What is a power greater than myself? I went to Grateful Life Center, and those meetings at 6 o'clock and 7:30 were definitely a power greater than myself. I heard some people share some things that gave me kind of an electric effect. Like I would leave the meeting thinking like, oh my God, I cannot believe that person just shared something like that, like something so personal, and they felt relieved, right? Like in step 1, I'm seeking relief through drugs and alcohol, right? That's what the alcoholic really wants. I just want some relief from this emotional buildup. So I get high. So I drink those Four Locos. But when I went to treatment, people would get relief, you know, by sharing in a meeting. And I'm like, what the fuck? So I tried it, you know. That's a power greater than myself. I saw that somebody else had a higher power, you know, and I believe that they believe, right? That's what we say in this program. Do you believe that I believe? I believe that they believe. And it was working for them, and I felt it, and it started working for me, you know. I read that big book a lot more, you know, and I shared every time I would never pass, you know, because I felt like it just worked. Like it worked. Just keep sharing, you know. Obviously, I can't just go to meetings and stay sober, right? I got to work these steps. And in me making this decision, right, it's really me deciding to go on to step 4. And And step 4 is important, right? Because it's the first time that I'm actually practicing this inventory that I'm about to do in step 10. Like, come on. You know, what better way to learn how to do step 10, right, than fourth step, all this stuff, all these things that have bugged me my whole life. Step 10 in the 12 and 12 says that it is a spiritual axiom that anytime I'm disturbed, the problem is me. How many times have I been pissed off at something that somebody else did, and I thought the solution was to go to them and tell them that I'm pissed off and they need to stop? Right? I fucking do that. When my head's not in this big book, when my head's not focused on the solution, I think I need to go tell that person, stop what you're fucking doing because it's pissing me off. You know, like that's not right. Obviously, I just said I'm restless and irritable and discontented. That's my natural disposition. No matter what I'm doing, right? I wake up, I'm just restless, irritable, and discontented. You know, so if I know that the problem is me and that the only way for me to solve my problem is for me to change my behaviors, then it's just totally on me. There's no reason for me to go to that other person and tell them that I'm pissed off. You know, like this is kind of an inside job, right? You know, I don't know. This is an inside job, and this is how I figure out what's going on. So step 4, right? We're getting down to causes and conditions. It says for there's 3 parts of self that there are 3 parts of self, right? You know, I got resentments, fears, and sex harms. With resentments, it says with whom we're angry. I asked why. What part of self was affected? Where had we been selfish, inconsiderate, dishonest, and self-seeking? With fears, why do I have this fear, right? I list them. Was it because self-reliance had failed us? When I'm asking how it's self-reliance failed me, I'm saying, what have I done in my life with this fear driving me, right? Because I'm driven by 100 forms of fear. What have I done driven by this fear? Like, I want to inventory that. Like, where has this fear gotten me in my life? You know, because I rest on these fears. I'm comfortable with these fears because I've been living with them my whole life. So what have I gotten my whole life, right? I just got that tornado, you know, and I think that me putting a drink in myself or my friend's body or something is going to solve some problems, but it never does, obviously. What would God have me be instead? This is a question I've never considered my whole life, right? How often do we ask that? Like, what would God have me be? You know, when I'm facing a difficult decision. That's not just for fears. Like, what would God have me be is just a good question in general, you know? With my sex harms, right? I'm going to list these people. Was it selfish or not? You know, how did I harm them? Did I unjustifiably arouse jealousy, suspicion, or bitterness? These questions are directly out of the big book. And what would God have me be instead? You know, I was talking to this guy right before this meeting, and he said that his sponsor like asked him to make the sex ideal. You know, some of you guys have heard about it. Like, I write all these things down, all these characteristics that I want in another person, and I try to embody those. You know, like I do make unreasonable demands upon people, but am I trying to grow myself? You know, guys, you could take this template down and you can use this as a template for step 10, right? Step 10 says, I continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. Where does that come from? All of that is right here in step 4. So if I repeatedly try doing inventory and all these things that I've done in my life, right? Once I discuss it with another person, which is what step 5 demands, like I should be well attuned to try this in step 10, right? The more thorough my inventory is in step 4, I feel like the more success I'm going to have in step 10. All right. So step 5 says that I share that and I get the exact nature. And guys, like, it's easy for me to see exactly where I've gone wrong when I write things down. But it's even better when I ask for an outside perspective, right? Because a lot of things that I think are the truth, the way that something actually happens, is just my perspective, right? That's the only angle I can see it from. You know, once I share that with somebody, a lot of times I'm going to get a suggestion or an outside opinion, you know, that's more like, well, Vince, you know, like you're affected. So this is X, Y, and Z, you know, and this is not really how you thought it was, you know, and Sometimes I feel remorseful and I think like, oh my God, like you're right. Like I can't believe I didn't see it that way. So guys, step 6 and 7, right? I'm talking about my defects of character, my shortcomings, same thing. We call 6 and 7 the pillar of the program, right? Whenever something crops up, I immediately ask God to remove it. And I'm going to be doing that the rest of my life. Things are going to be cropping up, you know? Uh, Guys, I do have these defects of characters, right? These shortcomings. I'm lustful, right? Let me tell you about this situation. Somebody hit me up and asked me for help, and I called my friend who's also sober, and I said, "We need to save this person. He's attractive." You know. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And as soon as that left my lips, I said, "What the fuck did you just say?" You know. And of course, my friend, I guess he brushed that off or didn't hear that comment. Did you hear that comment? Okay, well, you didn't act like it. All right. And he was just like, yeah, we can't save anybody. Like he gave a typical AA response, and I'm like, of course he's saying everything perfect. And I'm over here just being insane. And I just want to save this guy because I think he's good looking, and we can't save this guy, and we don't get to choose who we help, right? Like any of the people that I've ever sponsored, like there was just one sponsee where I felt like I gotta sponsor this guy, but everybody else that I've ever helped, like when people want help, like they'll reach out, like I can plant the seed all I want, but when they're ready, they're ready. Like if somebody doesn't want to drown, they won't, they will tell you, I don't want to drown, and you think about somebody who needs help and the desperation of a drowning man, like I don't have to ask somebody if they're drowning. Like I know they're drowning and they're just like my goal is to get in there and show them how to swim, right? I'm not swimming for them. And what I want to do so many times is to swim for somebody, you know. And I can't swim for this person. I can't swim for anybody. I can barely swim for myself. So once I figure out what these shortcomings are, these character defects, right? It's really the selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear that step 10 talks about, right? All of this is enveloped in step 10. Step 10 is in all of this. I prepared this amends list, right? And I'm gonna make direct amends. Now, the thing with making amends, right? I want to go out there and repair this damage. Sometimes I draw this little stick figure with the bricks, fuck it, let me do this. Okay, come on. Let me draw this. So this is what I think about, I guess steps 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. This is me, right? I am this actor trying to run the show. I am full of resentment. I'm restless, irritable, and discontent. And this is the sunlight of the spirit. Okay. This is God. So I'm kind of stuck in this house and I don't even know that God's out there. Okay. And I keep putting up these bricks. I'm just pissed off and I think the world's out to get me. Okay. And I got this resentment, this fear, and this sex harm. I'm so full of these bricks in my house that I don't even know that God exists, right? But in step 4, I get to identify some of these bricks, right? Like, I don't know what this brick is, but I know this brick is resentment. This brick ain't my fault, but this brick is a sex harm, right? So in step 5, my sponsor is going to be like, this brick is definitely your fault. This brick is a resentment. What about all these other bricks out here? I'm like, well, fuck them bricks. That's what we say. He's like, no, you need to identify exactly what those bricks are. So I identify what those bricks are, right? And I see that this is all a culmination of my character defects, and I'm just going to keep building them, right, until I do something about them. Step 8 and 9, I get to sweep them away. I make this list, right? This amends list. And I did this, maybe a year, maybe a couple of years ago. I made this 4-column list. This now, maybe, never, now, maybe, later, never list, right? All the amends that I want to make now, all the amends that I want to make later, all the amends that I'm maybe going to make, all the amends that I'm never going to make. And once I start making those in step 9, some of those maybes become laters, right? Some of those maybes become now. Like, fuck it, I've made these now, and I see that it's not a big deal, right? Let me make some of them. Some of these nevers become maybes or become laters. Like when I run into this person, if God puts this person in my path, like I'm definitely gonna make it. I know it's a sign. So once I start making those amends, some of these bricks start sweeping away. And the glory about these bricks getting swept away is now I see the sunlight of the Spirit, right? And I feel that warmth. And I start thinking like, damn, if I keep doing this, like shit, this whole little house that I built, it goes away, right? And now I'm a completely different person, right? Like I said in the beginning. Oh my God. Like I said in the beginning, right? Try repeatedly steps 4 through 9 and try to be the same fucking stick figure. It's impossible. I'm a whole different man. And not only am I just out here, right? I keep doing this. I keep making mistakes and being willing to rectify them. I'm growing closer to God. Okay? And there is no limit. There is no limit on how close to God I can get, right? I'm keep going. And that's what step 10 is about. It says to continue to grow in effectiveness and understanding. Let me find this little passage in step 10 about my mental obsession being removed. It says, and we have ceased fighting anything or anyone, even alcohol. For this time, the sanity will have returned. That sanity that I'm trying to achieve from step 2, right? We will seldom be interested in liquor. These are step 10 promises right here. I'm going to be seldom interested in liquor. If tempted, we will recoil from it as from a hot flame. We react sanely and normally, and we will find that this has happened automatically. We will see that our new attitude toward liquor has been given us without any thought or effort on our part. It just comes. That is the miracle of it. We're not fighting it, and neither are we avoiding temptation. We feel as though we have been placed in a position of neutrality, safe and protected. We have not even sworn off. Instead, the problem has been removed. So like I said in step 1, the problem is in my mind. It's that mental obsession. It says the problem has been removed. We have not even sworn off. It does not exist for us. We are neither cocky nor afraid. That is our experience, and that is how we react so long as we keep in fit spiritual condition. It said it is easy to let up on the spiritual program of action and rest on our laurels. We're headed for trouble if we do, for alcohol is a subtle foe. We're not cured of alcoholism, right? That's why in these meetings, I'm always Vince alcoholic. I'm not cured. What we really have is a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. Every day is a day we must carry the vision of God's will into all of our activities. How can I best serve thee? Thy will, not mine, be done. These are thoughts which must go with us constantly. We can exercise our willpower along this line all we wish. It is the proper use of the will. So check this out. In step 3, I've turned my will, my life over to the care of God as I understood him. Step 10 is saying now that I'm safe to exercise my will along this line all that I wish, as long as I keep in fit spiritual condition. What does that look like, right? I got to get up every day. And for me, I pray on my knees, like I ask God for help all throughout the day. Guys, every time before this meeting, I go into the bathroom and I say this little prayer, and I feel like, I don't know if it's like a ritual, but it's just something I do. It is a ritual. And I feel like when I do that, like this turns out well, and so I continue to do that. Like I get the results that I'm seeking. So I talk to God. I continue to talk to God. How else does that look? That looks like me taking suggestions, right? Adam sent us a text. He sent a text. He said, hey, if you want to come to this meeting at 6 o'clock, we're doing this meeting. And I'm like, fuck, maybe I should go to that meeting and see what they're talking about. Like I do these little things, and it's not even a big deal, but I try to do little things and it turns out okay. Jimmy, you asked me to come move a couch and it's not a big deal. And I come move a couch. It wasn't a big deal. It was a big ass couch, but I do those things, and I think like any other time, if I'm getting high, if I'm resentful, it doesn't even okay. So it's not even drugs and alcohol. If I'm just resentful, if I'm restless and irritable and discontented, I'm not doing those things. But when I am restless and irritable and discontented, and I decide to do something for my recovery, and I do those things, it makes me feel like a better person. It says, much has already been said about receiving strength, inspiration, and direction from him who has all knowledge and power. I do want to highlight this sentence right here. It doesn't say suggestion from him who has all knowledge and power. It says direction. When we read how it works in this meeting, sometimes like when we read how it works in this meeting, it's very direct. Like there is no, other way, and sometimes people try another way or whatever, I just know like this is the way that works for me. Much has already been said about receiving strength, inspiration, and direction from him who has all knowledge and power. If we have carefully followed directions, we have begun to sense the flow of his spirit into us. Guys, that's the psychic change that we talked about in step 2. To some extent, we have become God conscious. What God conscious means is like when I do something, right, I think, like, how is this going to affect somebody else? Like, what is this going to do for my recovery? And sometimes I still act, but step 10 gives me that out. Continue to take personal inventory when I'm wrong, properly admit it. Now, it doesn't mean continue to do wrong and just admit it. Just continue to do wrong. Fuck it. I'm an alcoholic. Fuck it. I'm going to just do wrong and I'm going to admit it. I don't get to do that. It says continue to grow in effectiveness and understanding, right? I'm not being effective if I keep doing the same fucking things, right? If I'm the same fucking stick figure, I'm not growing in effectiveness and understanding. In fact, we say this in meetings, and I don't like really AA meeting quotes, but I'm going to just say it, right? If I'm not growing, I'm going, right? If I'm not growing closer to God, then what am I doing? Right. I might be working on a relapse. If I'm not working on my recovery, I might be working on a relapse. It says, to some extent, we have become God conscious. We have begun to develop this vital sixth sense, but we must go further, and that means more action. Check this out. Step 10 and 12 and 12 talks about self-restraint. Okay. I did not have self-restraint in the madness. I did not have self-restraint really when I was in treatment, when I was in rehab. I really did feel like everything I did was touched by God. And only through taking inventory repeatedly, consistently, taking inventory, do I realize like a lot of things I do are just wrong, And once I am able to recognize that, right, I can then move forward. It's just like step 1, right? I was wrong. I thought the problem was heroin. I believed that the problem was heroin. A lot of times when I talk about, the state of the world in America, right, in Ohio, Northern Kentucky, heroin is such a problem. Heroin is a problem. Heroin wasn't my problem, right? And heroin's not the main problem for a lot of people, right? The problem is just the way that I think, And so step 10 demands more action. And so next week, we're going to talk about that more action and just try to continue to grow in effectiveness and understanding. Guys, my name is Vince. Thank you for listening. It's like, what do I do with my hands?
It's gonna save all the attractive people.
Dog.
Shit me, I'm alcoholic.
Just being humble.
Closing. Our book is meant to be suggestive only. We realize we know only a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who is still sick.
Sick.
The answers will come if your own house is in order, but obviously you cannot transmit something you haven't got. See to it that your relationship with him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and countless others. This is the great fact for us. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit. You will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy
Trudge.
destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then.
Thank you, Jimmy.